Dr. Christy Taylor, founder of Work Global News Magazine and Work Solutions LLC. And I'm excited today to present to you Mrs. Andrea McLean. She's going to be one of our featured speakers in the Prescription for Success Summit. And today we're highlighting her in our Changemaker series. Andrea is a board-certified life, career, and executive coach, as well as an award-winning author. Her latest book, Decide to Be Your Future Self, won the 2024 Story Trade Award in the motivational and self-help category. So I'm very excited to interview with Andrea today and kick off this awesome interview series with her as one of our featured changemakers. Hi, Andrea. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Dr. Christy. Thank you so much for having me on for the interview. And I'm honored that I'm the first person. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. I mean, the Prescription for Career Success Summit promises to really be just a weekend of people sharing great advice and mindset. But today's interview really is here to focus on you and your experience. Now, I want to jump right into the interview. Your journey from a 35-plus year corporate career to full-time coaching is so inspiring to me as someone who's been running a coaching practice for a number of years. And so you have a lot of experience in the corporate sector. And so what I would like to know, just to kick this conversation off, is what was that defining moment that really made you take that leap into coaching full-time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, there are kind of these markers throughout life where, you should be going in a certain direction, but you kind of stick with what you know and what you're comfortable with. And so I had my career, worked in 3 industries, and I actually came to a point where there was a promotion I expected and I didn't get the promotion. And I started thinking, okay, you've had some of these thoughts over the years. What is it that you really want to do next in your career chapter? And that was when I remembered actually a conversation I'd had with a coach probably 7 years prior when I got my Gallup Strength readout. And she said, based on your profile, I think you'd make a really good coach. And I just kind of parked it in my head. I didn't think anything more of it. But then when I kind of got to this juncture, I did some soul searching and some reflection. And I thought, over the years, I have been coaching, particularly women, and I love doing this. So this is what I'm going to pursue. And at that point, I went back and got my coaching certifications and actually had the opportunity to coach as an internal executive coach at my last company for women across the globe before I finally took an opportunity to step away from corporate and to move into this full time.
I'm so excited. Now, I'm going to actually jump ahead a little bit because your philosophy, it talks about, you really, your approach is really to reject these cookie cutter approaches, emphasizing, and instead you focus on individual strengths. So I want to talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to coaching, and why do you say we need to reject those cookie cutter approaches? How do you actually tailor your coaching to help other women step into their unique strengths and leadership potential?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've created a framework. It's called the SOAR method, and the S stands for shift your mindset. The O is overcome challenges. The A is activate your plan. And then the R is reflect and refine your plan. And so I use that approach with every woman, and I try to figure out where they're coming from. So from a shift perspective, what are their limiting beliefs? What are their experiences? What are they dealing with that I need to understand so I can tailor the right coaching program for them? And then on the overcome challenges, I look at what is it that we need to understand in terms of their strengths. So that's where we do some assessments to understand the strengths and therefore help them to lean into the strengths rather than just focusing on their weaknesses. And then the activate a plan, once I understand what their strengths are and what their aspirations are, how can we create a plan to help them to get there? And then on the reflecting and refining, that's where they seek feedback and actually stop to think about, what is it that success means to them and how are they going to reflect on that and celebrate that as they go through their journey. And so no woman is the same as another woman. We all have different experiences and backgrounds. So that's why I say no cookie cutter approach, because I like to tailor it to the person so that I'm not comparing one client to another client. It's really about them and how they're going to progress to get to their next.
I absolutely agree with that. I actually want to go a little off script here because something that you said about defining success. I think that as we go into this Prescription for Career Success Summit, one of the things that always stands out in my mind is really as a coach, and I'm sure you've experienced this, especially in your journey helping women, helping people to really learn to define success for themselves, yes. Right? Because so many times we have so many societal pressures, internal, external,
Yes.
First, how do you really help people to really identify what success really means to them? Because that's going to be a very important part of their journey, right? To help them get to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I always say success, even for both of us will look different. So I really ask them to visualize down, 5 years down the road, what are they doing? How do they feel about that? What are the things that really are valuable to them? What do they value? And, what is it that really would bring them joy? Because again, at the end of the day, if success is not bringing us joy, then we're going to feel empty. So they have to figure out, what does success mean for them in terms of what are their aspirations, and really how are they going to feel fulfilled and living their purpose when they get to that version of success that they were, seeking to achieve.
Yeah, because so many times we often think that success is associated with a title. I think that when people see my
Right.
resume, they often think me doing my business, for example, and I'm sure for you as a coach, is very fulfilling, right? And so if I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for jobs on the outside or full-time jobs or careers, I really just am looking for something to sustain me that will keep me active and engaged. But people think, oh, you must want to be the vice president. Actually, I don't. You know what I mean? And so I think that sometimes for women, especially because we want, sometimes we pursue titles, but that is not everybody's goal. We have to be
Exactly.
able to define for ourselves. Now, you talk a lot about overcoming self-doubt. I want to get to this next piece here because I want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
your personal journey and then move into how you help women overcome self-doubt. Now, you have talked a lot about in some of your articles and books and things that you've published, talking about overcoming self-doubt and staying grounded in your faith. And so I want to make that a personal question for you. How does your faith guide you through the challenges of launching your coaching business?
Yeah, actually, my faith is foundational to everything that I do. And I had to rely on my faith to, first of all, step away from corporate to go into this coaching practice full time, because it was somewhat unknown. It was risky. It was scary. I had the comfort of years of this corporate environment where all the systems and structures are there for you. And here you are now, you have to build everything. The buck stops with you, so to speak. So I had to rely on my faith that if I had this vision and I had this calling that I wanted to serve women, that I would find a way, and that I just needed to put, one step at a time, and the journey would unfold. And that's how I started, just relying on the fact that if there was a calling I felt, that I would somehow get the provision to be able to fulfill this vision that I have. And, even today, my faith continues to guide me in terms of decisions that I make.
That is so reinforcing, even to me, you know what I mean? Because I really stepped out in the last year to say, hey, I'm going to expand this business. And it's being so
Mhm.
much bigger than what I wanted to be a coach. It seems like I ended up doing so much work in social impact, actually, versus just coaching by
Yeah.
itself. And that is a faith walk. Now, when it comes to how you mentor and support women, how you coach and champion women, many women, they struggle with self-doubt and imposter syndrome
Mhm.
in the workplace, and even in their own life, just showing up for themselves. What
Yes.
strategies do you use to help them break through those barriers and get to the next level?
So one of the first things is that I really want them to affirm themselves. So they need to really step back and say, what am I good at? Not
Mhm.
looking at what everybody else is doing, but what am I good at? What are my strengths? And a lot of times self-doubt and, imposter syndrome, we think that it's luck or, some reason that it's beyond what we did to get to the role we're in. So I have them reframe that you're in this position because you earned it, because you're capable. It's not an accident. So it's that self-affirmation. But then also I encourage them to surround themselves with a network that's going
Mm.
to support them, whether it's sponsors or mentors or peers, because imposter syndrome tends to do very well on its, when you're a loner or when you're alone.
Yeah.
But when you have women and others, not just women, but you have allies who are supporting you, then you have somebody to lean on and to share some of the challenges that you might be going through or some of the fears that you might have. And then I also, which is, part of what they have to create, is almost this narrative for themselves. It could be a personal bio that has all of their accomplishments, but I also coach them around how to storytell and how to use data to reinforce their value and that they have earned a seat at the table, and that they can therefore play the role and lead as well as they can based on their skills, experiences that they already have. And it's not that they're not capable, they just need to believe it.
People ask me, Dr. Taylor, why do you love writing resumes? Well, it's not the love of writing resumes, because we know that they could be long and tedious, but it's really the art of just helping people to see themselves on paper, because that's a confidence builder. So you saying, writing that personal biography, sometimes seeing yourself on paper and seeing the concrete and seeing what you've been able to accomplish, it helps you to kind of get some perspective, right? And one of the things I always say about overcoming limited mindsets is that you're human. And so if you I think your mind, we kind of approach it the same way, is that we go through the process of trying to make sure that we address those self-limiting beliefs, but you may still have those experiences. So just because you're feeling one way today, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be feeling a different way tomorrow. But that's where you have to not beat yourself up about having a feeling, acknowledge it, but just don't languish in it. Like, don't linger in it, right? Acknowledge it, right? Because self-doubt happens. And you have been a champion of women. And you also have done a lot of collaboration, because that's a key part of your coaching and business success. Can you just share a time like a powerful collaboration moment? Because you talk about even in this interview, creating synergy and having a network so that you can have that support. How have you used that same approach in your business, this collaborative model?
Yes, so I can give you an example. I'll give you in the business, and I'll give you an example before I left corporate of how collaboration benefited me. But in my business, one of the things that I wasn't good at is digital marketing. So I collaborated with someone who was great at digital marketing, and that enabled me to really ramp up my online presence and to be able to leverage my SOAR method across multiple platforms, whether it's a webinar or it's a book promotion or it's a coaching offer. And I was then able to focus on creating my content, being able to focus on coaching, and not being worried about how am I going to get on social media, because that was not my forte at all. So, and my brand, and, even down to brand and colors and, the images that align with my brand. So it was a wonderful collaboration, which when I look back, it's been about a year and a half or so. And when I look back to where I began before I had that collaboration, it's like night and day. So collaboration for me has been key. And then on the internal example I was going to share, because I collaborated with a sponsor, I was given that opportunity to become an internal executive coach. So I even saw the real beauty of collaboration within a corporation to be able to move forward on your aspirations.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think, one thing about owning a business is that you realize you can't do it on your own. And we was just talking about before we even jumped on about, how my business operations manager, how she steps in. She is the person that leads a lot of this work. Sometimes we can't do this alone, but I do want to add, if you just are starting out, right, don't be afraid to just start where you are, use what you have, because that first thing, right, Andrea, is like you said, you stepped out on faith, and sometimes you have to just keep the vision forward. Because if you've been given this task, this vision to help people, a path will be called for you, but you just have to be willing to take that first step.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your book, and how this is being used as a level of influence. And then I also want to come back and talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's something that you're really passionate about. Now, you wrote this book, you're expanding your impact. You are doing these online courses. Have books. I was just clicking on your website a minute ago.
Okay.
One lesson that you've learned about scaling your coaching business, but I also just want you to also just, I think you kind of have answered this question, but the lesson that you learned about scaling your business, and how has the resources that you've been providing us, because you got free courses on there on your website. You have things, people can access at all levels. How has that helped your business continue to grow? And talk a little bit about those free resources. If somebody's tuning in, what can they come and learn from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll start with the scaling of the business. So the one thing I had to learn was that it's impact over volume. And by that, I mean, it's, I have this framework. So how could I leverage it across multiple platforms, whether it's the courses or speaking or coaching? How can I leverage that across? But then I also had to learn that I needed to use some automation. So automation has helped me to deliver my content, schedule content out, help with scheduling, for example. So of clients who might want to meet with me. So I had to figure out that I can't do everything like you were just saying, and that there is a place for automation to make some of these processes, more efficient. And so moving across all of the platforms, I think gives me the opportunity for more women to see my work and for me to therefore have an impact. And, with the free resources, again, that's another way for people to get to know who I am. So, whether it's about a journal reflection guide using the SOAR method, it's there for people to use, and then also to get to know who I am. And I'm working on a couple other free resources to put out there, because that could help be the gateway for them to take one of my courses that they're going to have to pay for.
Yeah, and I think that this is just the art of the business. Now I really just want to transition to your client base, right? So we do these interviews with change makers like you, but you have a focus on women, and you're in this leadership space. And you talked about how you've helped women to really overcome imposter syndrome. Now you're passionate about diversity and inclusion, and we're right now at a time where the turning point for where DEI is at. I don't think DEI itself has changed in terms of what it stands for and what it means, especially as a DEI advocate myself. But you are passionate about this space, and how can women, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, advocate for themselves and create space at the table, especially now? How do we continue to do that?
I think the first thing, a lot of times when we're in underrepresented backgrounds, we don't always speak our truth or give our perspective. And so I think it's continuing to speak, our perspective, to share our thoughts, to get our voices heard, because a lot of times we shrink back. And so that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is, again, getting those alliances, because it's not going to happen alone. Especially, I think, in the environment we're in now, we're going to need partnerships to be able to move this forward. So getting those partnerships, getting those advocates who will speak up for you when decisions are being made in rooms where you're not sitting in that room. And then again, the other thing too is to really promote yourself. And not in a way that's, bragging, because a lot of times we think about self-promotion as bragging, but it's how to frame that in a way that we're informing others of our capabilities and what we can bring to the table versus, just saying, oh, look how great I am, just for that sake. And then lastly, I think we have to create a seat at the table, maybe even redefine the table if necessary. And by that, I mean, whether you're going to now lead an employee resource group to get some visibility there, or you might start a new initiative in your company to create focus where it needs to be, or you might launch a business. So it's stepping out boldly, because I think when, from a diverse perspective, we step out boldly and we create a path, we allow others to follow. And I think we just can't give up in this moment. We just have to keep moving forward.
To your point, and this is one of the reasons why I said I'm going to continue to do the work continue to work on being a prescription, even in the DEI space, right? Because it's not going away, and it's going to take partnerships, especially in this space for women, because there is such an advantage to having diverse perspectives, diverse backgrounds and experiences at the table. Corporate businesses, organizations, even places that are serving the military, we can't exist with a monolith, right? So these conversations are important, but I do want to emphasize what you said, the power of partnership and sponsorship. And if you're listening in, guys, sponsorship is so different from mentorship. I'm sure you've done podcast episodes and topics where you've talked about this, but with sponsorship, people are attaching their brand to yours. That means that you have to deliver on the results. They're attaching their brand to yours. So that's going to be a little bit different from mentorship, where they're advising you. And I think in this space right now, it's not that you were not already proving yourself, right? But those partnerships and sponsorships are going to be really important so that you can continue to serve and advocate. I want to talk a little bit about your book. We're going a little bit over here, but that's absolutely fine, because I want to make sure that people really know who you are and what you bring to the table and for this upcoming summit. So my last question really...
Do you want me to show you a copy of the book? Or?
Yeah, I want you to do all of that. If you got it, hold it up. My last question was your latest book, right? It's called Decide to Be Your Future Self. It empowers readers to take control of their lives. And guys, she's gonna answer this question, but we're also gonna make sure that all of our information is in the description so that you can purchase this book. But I want you to tell us about this book. I mean, it you just released it last year. It already won an award. You're being recognized for it. So talk a little bit about your book and what it's about.
So the book is really about, again, deciding to be your future self. And the reason I titled it that was that we can dream and we can think about what we want to become, but I think it starts with that decision, because that decision is going to drive the action. And through that process, that's where I created the SOAR framework, because sometimes you have to shift your mindset to think about where you could go in your future. You're going to, of course, meet challenges. Life is not without its challenges, so you have to overcome some challenges. You have to activate a plan, because shifting your mindset, overcoming challenges, if you don't do something about it, it's not going to come to fruition. And then you have to stop and reflect. You have to celebrate the progress you've made, whether it's small or big, you have to celebrate that. And you have to think about where you might need to tweak. Maybe what you started out in terms of where you want to get for the future, you might want to adjust that direction a little bit, and that's fine. It's okay to change. So that's really the premise of the book. And so I walk through each of the letters in the SOAR framework, and then I have coaching exercises as well as part of that book. And I'm working on an actual course that will come out later this year as well, aligning with the SOAR method. So I'm really passionate about people soaring, and I'm actually grateful that I thought about the acronym and putting it together this way. That's a framework that's easy to remember for people to really get to the next step in their lives.
This has really been a powerful conversation with you, and I'm really excited because there's going to be so much. We're in a time of change. And so as part of this Prescription for Career Success Summit, the tickets are going to be free with the option to upgrade to VIP. And I want to just talk a little bit about what is the topic that you're going to be focusing on to help people write their prescription for career success.
Yes, I'm going to read it just so that I give you the right way. It's fearless self-promotion and the power of a personal brand, empowering your career with confidence and clarity.
So, Andrea has talked a lot today about seeing yourself on paper, overcoming imposter syndrome. Do you want to add any context to your topic that you're going to be talking about for the Prescription for Career Success Summit?
Yes, absolutely. So it's about, again, I talked a little bit about promoting yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's about shifting that mindset that you're not bragging, that you're promoting. So I'm going to walk through that, why it's beneficial to promote, because if you don't tell your story, somebody else is going to tell it, and it might not be the way you want it told. So how to tell your story. And then I also have a framework to create that personal bio where you can articulate what you bring to the table. What are your accomplishments? What are your skills? And what are you looking for next in your career, so that you have that conversation piece to talk with a leader, a sponsor, a mentor to help you get where you want to go in your career.
I absolutely love that topic. Some of us don't realize the power of personal brand. When I talk a lot about career branding on my podcast, my Prescription for Career Success podcast. And we're going to figure out a way to get you back in the future on some of the other work that I'm doing.
I would love to join you. Thank you.
I've just learned a lot from listening to you. I have you just have a tremendous background and experience, especially when it comes to working with women. And so what I would love to see, and we'll talk about it offline, is not only this interview, but also for you to share an article with us here for the magazine where we can continue to promote and support you. Andrea, this has been fantastic. Where can people find you besides registering for the Prescription for Career Success Summit, which will have the ticket link in the bio? Where can people find you?
Yes, they can find me at www.andreacmclean.com, and the C has to be there. There's another Andrea McLean in the UK. And then also you can follow me at Andrea C. McLean on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I've created quite an online presence thanks to my digital marketer.
And I would like to just ask you, just where we are now, and from your perspective, what final piece of advice would you give to someone who's trying to write their prescription for career success?
The first thing I would say is you are enough. So don't think that you have to get necessarily, more skills, more credentials, unless you're moving into a field where that's required. But a lot of times we think we need more. So I would say you're enough, and to look at how can you leverage what you have to get to your next level. Most importantly, believe in yourself. There are a lot of headwinds you might have to face, but it has to start with you believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to do the work and take the actions to get you to the next step and the next level.
All right, everybody. This has been Coach Andrea McLean. We were so excited to interview you today here at Work Global News. This is not the last time that you will see Andrea. Our featured speakers for the Prescription for Career Success Summit. Andrea, thank you for coming today and sharing your journey. And we look forward to reading about you in a magazine, sharing this video, and continuing to collaborate as we get ready to launch the upcoming summit.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Christie. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.